Starting recording. And... yes.
Hey, yo!
I don't know. I'm usually way less lucid when we start these things.
Yeah, we usually do it we usually start at 3 in the morning. I'm usually more lucid, I think, somehow.
Alright, well, going from that, what is up, YouTube-verse? Welcome to another Two Idiots Talk for an Hour podcast. Taylor and I are in separate buildings this time. He needed a timeout.
I have to work on the weekend, which can suck my fucking dick.
Future me, censor that. I won't censor that. So today, we're bringing
it's like the narrator comes in, he wouldn't censor that.
He did not, in fact, censor that. So today, we're talking about something that will always get somebody's dander up. JRPGs versus WRPGs, as I'm calling them, or Western RPGs.
Yes, it's kind of weird that we can say, like, JRPGs, but not WRPGs.
W doesn't roll off the tongue as quickly as J, though, so that might
No, it doesn't. That's fair. That's fair.
Nothing is fair, Taylor. Nothing is fair.
Of course not.
So, we're going to be going over... Here's the table of contents. We're going over the differences,
like the 3 things we wrote down in our notepad doc.
Yes. Yes, indeed. We're going over the differences today. We'll go over some similarities, along with some pros and cons of each style, and we'll give some good and bad examples of each. And of course, we'll end on the 2 we can agree on the most. So,
one of which might just shock you.
My voice is reverbing a little bit in my ears with both headphones on. So, it's just they're very good headphones.
Oh, that's good.
Anyways,
I'm using cheap Apple headphones that came with my parents' old phones. They have like 6 of them lying around the house.
Yes, well, I'm just a bit higher class than you, that's all.
I don't believe that for a second, but please, leave the discussion, sir.
Alrighty, so we start off with differences. First and foremost, the major differences are, the most obvious one would be where
geographical.
The hell they're made. Yeah, geographical. Although, to be fair, the Western RPGs tends to also encompass ones made in Europe and such like that, too. Yeah,
and Japanese is just in Japan.
Yeah, it's very specific.
Though there are some Japanese games that are very American, like Dark Souls is a very American-style RPG.
But actually, yeah, it's very American in style, but of course its setting is very European.
Yes. And I can't really think of any American-made, vaguely JRPG types games. Can you think of anything?
Are you saying kind of like an Amerime version of it?
I guess.
Basically,
Or even just in terms of, like, how they usually present their stories or how their turn-based gameplay would work, but I'm not, like, thinking of anything.
No, I can't think of anything either now that I think about it. Because, like, it's not often that you get one there. I think the big difference being is that a lot of times the Japanese RPG style goes more towards the grand adventure with the hero and such like that, and the hero has to take out the big bad. Now, that's all well and good, and it's very trite. But
that's the kind of thing that all the Western developers are making in the 90s. That's Baldur's Gate, and that's Neverwinter.
But at the same point, there's a much... Let's put it this way, I suppose. Here's a better way of putting it.
Okay.
In most cases, not all, but in most cases, a lot of the Japanese ones, the JRPGs, it's usually a lot brighter and more colorful. Note my character on the screen.
Yes.
Which you can't see. But,
yes. Well, they can.
They can. I'm saying you can't, though.
I can. You sent me a picture of it,
fair enough.
just like a few minutes ago.
Maybe I changed it. You don't know.
I don't think you had I don't believe for an instant you had the motivation to do that.
You're right on that. So yeah, anyways, a lot of times they end up being a lot more bright and colorful. Even with a really dark storyline, they somehow still keep a much more colorful aesthetic. Whereas in the Western ones, a lot of times you are going to find that we have a very dark...
It's more grounded, at least.
We have a lot of more browns and grays, let's put it that way. As shown by your character.
Yes, Planescape Torment is a very dark game. To be fair, it's the Evangelion of Western RPGs, classic CRPGs. Which explains why I like it, though I've never finished it. So someone needs to come and just shoot me in the head and take my gamer card.
No. You just gotta finish it. Man up and finish it.
I'll have to start from the beginning. Last time I played it was on my old computer like 3.5 years ago.
Anyways, and I should make mention, since you've mentioned who your guy is from, mine is from Chrono Cross, the spiritual successor in a sense of Chrono Trigger, but it actually is a sequel too, so in its own way.
And my character's name is the nameless one, appropriately enough. What is your character's name?
Kid. So both ours are really uncreative names.
Very on the nose, I guess.
But yeah, we're getting a little off topic on there. We're getting the
That's
basic
how it goes.
Yeah, of course we do. We're always off topic. This should just be off topic, the podcast. But
Hey,
I'm sure somebody's
that.
done that already. I'm sure.
Oh, certainly.
But let's see here. I can't really think too much more on the differences thing, because that is the major difference. Besides, again, like you said, geographical. It's mostly tone a lot of times. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some JRPGs that do dark, and they know how to do dark and creepy and stuff like that. They do it really well. But somehow it just doesn't always seem like it has the same gravitas as like the stories given by a Western one.
Like I said, I think it is that the more the Western RPGs, the more they're very, very grounded. They're more based like the Western RPGs are like your first like really grounded sort of game, like a tabletop game, like your D&D. It's like it's very serious and it's very based in reality. And like a JRPG is like your later one where everybody's just bouncing off the wall, and one guy's a lolly and one guy's a werewolf, and it's like they're just kind of just throwing shit at the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm sorry, but the way you just described the JRPG sounds more like the way some D&D games I've heard of have been run. I want to be a werewolf. I'm a little girl. How
like it's very cartoony. Is most JRPGs, even when it's very serious and more down to earth, like the Personas or the SMTs.
Yes. Well, an SMT, the Shin Megami Tensei is very, very dark for its series. Yes. I mean, the Personas are actually the most lighthearted of the series in their own way.
Persona 4 is like a friggin'...
I knew you'd have to come up with Persona 4 sometime in this talk. Go ahead.
I have to install Persona 4 at some point. It's like watching Escape from New York, and then if you were to go and play like an SMT game, let's say like Nocturne, that's like watching like The Thing, but only the transformation sequences, like when everybody turns into like the monster over and over again on loop for like an hour and a half, while like heavy metal blasts like into your ears. That's the best. That's the first comparison that comes to mind.
That is an interesting way to do it, but I feel like you're not totally wrong with that assessment.
No, it's like fun and camp and like creepy and disturbing, but also like metal. It's a very metal series.
It is. Nothing wrong with metal.
No, another difference I noticed generally, it's kind of hard because the weird thing is Western RPGs have evolved a lot from like the 80s to now. Like if you compare,
some of them have even taken some stuff from JRPGs, I'm sure.
And JRPGs have taken quite a lot from a lot of like the 80s dungeon crawlers like Wizardry and that sort of thing, and Ultima.
And again, you can go series.
Yes, and you can go from that to like the modern RPGs. What is a modern like big budget like AAA Western RPG these days that is being, let's say, like The Witcher.
Yeah, The Witcher is actually a pretty good example. We're getting into the good examples already, Taylor. What are you doing? You're jumping the gun.
We have to bring them in, but it's they've like you start up like there's a lot of turn-based combat. That's where of course JRPG usually got their turn-based combat from, is because Western RPGs like it's dungeon crawling and it's turn-based and it's very set in the D&D rules.
But I guess that works off there. But you have to remember, like turn-based has been around for the JRPGs has been around since like in the NES and era and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, because it's based off of like tabletop rules.
Yeah, it's
basically all the but then you get sort of stuff like in like the early 2000s, you start transitioning away from that. Like you get Oblivion, like in Morrowind, all your attacks are based on dice rolls. So you can like physically, you can see your weapon touching the enemy, but then you don't do any damage. But in Oblivion, if you touch the enemy, you do damage.
Yeah, that was a thing I definitely got a mod to take out. It was really annoying.
Which, the Morrowind?
Yeah.
I forgot how much.
Sorry, the sword literally hit him, and yet it didn't hit him. That's bullshit.
I think you have to be in the right mindset for it. You have to realize that you're working off of like tabletop rules.
More to the point, I got into Morrowind after I played Oblivion, so it didn't really work well in that case. If I had started with Morrowind, I probably would have liked it better. But
probably. And then like Mass Effect, who I was originally going to be Shepard, but we couldn't find a good Shepard for me.
No, no, the
Massive,
PNGs did
no,
not want to work with me.
apparently not. But Mass Effect, where it's basically just an action series with like RPG elements and
It's true, and
similar
there's
to
a
the
lot that are doing them that way too. But I mean, technically, they are still RPGs in their own right.
Sure, you can actually like influence your character, and you can influence the world around you, and you play a role.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember where the hell I heard this. It was probably in 4chan because that's where I get everything. The difference between like a Western RPG and a JRPG is that, in a Western RPG, like I can't, I'm trying to remember how exactly to do this. Like you pick the role you want to play, and you play that role. But in a JRPG, a role is given to you, and you play that role. Like JRPGs, you don't really have a lot. Like in a lot of them, you don't have a choice to like customize your character a lot. Like it's a fixed character with not like a ton of dialogue.
You're giving your characters to tell the story with, basically.
Basically, yeah, it's like a pre-made D&D module, to use D&D metaphors again, because I'm going to be doing that a lot, as opposed to just like a homebrew sort of thing.
And I'm not going to get too deeply into cultural changes and stuff like that, but that is a bit of a cultural thing into itself, because there's a lot. The Asian, a lot of the Asian countries have a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? More of a all for one kind of thing there. So. If you get what I mean.
Collectivism.
Collectivism, yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
And it's a lot more for everybody works together, but in the Western world, we're very, very individualistic.
We're like an Ayn Rand wet dream, to use a phrase I heard once, and I hope to never think about again.
I hope to never have to be interested enough to look up what the hell that's supposed to mean.
I'm sorry. You don't know about the literary exploits of Ayn Rand. Excuse me.
You see, I have this thing called taste.
Fair enough. She wrote like one good book. To be fair.
Oh, and what one was that?
Anthem.
Okay.
Okay, minor
Let's not
tangent.
go too far into Ayn Rand. It's not
just very minor tangent. You know BioShock.
Yes.
The objectives philosophy is based off of her writing.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
I read when I first played BioShock. I read a lot of her books to like, okay, this woman sounds fucking very weird and very interesting. So I read a lot of her stuff. Anyways, back to JRPGs.
Yes. Where did we leave off?
Anyways, back to 9/11.
No. We should probably focus on similarities now, because I think we've pretty much delved differences. Similarities, there's some basic stuff they're getting more, like I said before, they're getting more similar now than they did before, because both sides are taking stuff from the other side and working with it from there.
There's even more borrowing, really, than there was, like, back in, like, the 80s and the 90s. There's a lot of RPGs these days, JRPGs, are, like, real-time, or they don't even have, like, an active time system or a turn-based or anything. Like, look at Final Fantasy 15.
And even take in certain cases, like you were saying about being given your characters and working with that for a story. Take games like, say, the Monster Hunter series, where you make your own character to go and hunt the monsters.
Yeah.
That one there is a Japanese RPG, but it is first off action, of course, and it's also your own character. So, or at least the latest one was. I don't play them enough to know if the other ones get to let you make them.
I think there is at least a little bit of, you do have a little bit of influence on the creation of your character. Okay. That is a very Western sort of bit of influence.
But in some cases, that is a very Western feeling Japanese game.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing, usually, like I said, there's a lot of influence from like D&D and tabletop games. Mm-hmm. CSC, a lot of similar stories with like groups of characters getting together and they go adventuring for a little bit and then they uncover a bigger mystery and then there's like the big bad guy and there's lots of boss fights. Like the progression of the plot is fairly similar because they're working from similar foundations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you take stuff like going back to the first one of the more early RPGs, like Final Fantasy 1, the first Final Fantasy, is your characters literally start off being just this band of four hale and hearty adventurers going, and they find out the king of a local city's daughter has been kidnapped. You go to this old ruined castle to find what it is. It's his ex-captain of the guard has stolen her and is ransoming her, and you have to fight him. His name's Garland. But you go through that story, and down the road you run into Garland, I think, a couple more times, and he's actually basically the big bad, or basically has to do with the big bad at the end of the game. The big bad being chaos, so...
That is a very JRPG thing. If I can briefly... Yeah, if I can start like drifting towards differences. JRPGs are big fans of like starting small. They'll start small. It's like here's a little adventure, and then by the end you're killing God. It's the meme of every JRPG is teenagers killing God. Whereas like Western RPGs, like it's usually like killing like a demigod or something. Like it's never as big. It's killing like a big guy or something.
A lot of times it has to do with killing a person who wants to be God.
That to both JRPGs and Western RPGs.
There's
like
on that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were gonna say something there.
I can't remember what the hell I was gonna say.
But no, there's similarities on that because, like, at the end of the day, there's still only so many different areas you can go with stories for a lot of them. I mean, yes, with a lot of cases, it's fantasy, and fantasy does allow for a lot. At the same time, it also kind of hinders you in going so far. Because, I mean, there's a lot about fantasy you can do that's already been done by D&D. So,
like, basically every fantasy story is just like a ripoff of, like, Tolkien or Robert E. Howard. Like, it really is, like, it's derivative of one of the two. And most D&D is Robert E. Howard because it's, like, swashbuckling, fun adventuring sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Whereas, yeah, I don't know, it's we could probably go on, and I feel we're going a little in circles on this there, because it's basically... As much as there is different, there's just as much the same, so I don't know, it balances itself out. Oh my god, have we found out something secret?
Is that JRPGs and Western RPGs are basically the same game, just kind of like, it's...
Different stories?
Just like different ways of doing the exact same thing, and a lot of them are really, really similar.
It really is just the different ways of telling the same, a lot of the similar stories, basically.
A lot of it is, like you said, it's mostly geographical. It's mostly like the cultural sort of thing that influences the game.
Yeah, definitely. Culture makes a big difference. I mean, just think of... It's also kind of interesting, too, because they draw from their own culture, whereas Western ones have a much wider area to draw from. Because
Japan is just Japan, but Western is usually it's like medieval Europe and that sort of thing in history, and sometimes they'll dabble in this place and that place, or like American stuff and whatever,
Sadly, the true Western society, like Canada and the States and stuff, we're not old enough countries to have anything really good enough to make a fantasy universe out of.
Well, in Dragon Age, to get into some dodgy political territory, vaguely, I'll try and allude to this. I mean, Dragon Age, the creators of the Dragon Age series have said pretty explicitly that one of the influences for the elves is the Native Americans.
Like, well, the way they treat them, I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like half Jews, half Native Americans.
Ouch. No, but yeah, I can kind of see that for sure. Because in the Dragon Age series, elves are just treated like shit, basically. So, but
or like basically any kind of
dwarves.
Serious ethnic minority.
What would that make the dwarves, though, Taylor?
I don't know. This isn't about how this is not our podcast episode about how the Dragon Age series is just like a big parable.
Tune in next time for how we make political similarities between Dragon Age.
All right, so who's Himmler? Who's Heinrich Himmler in Dragon Age?
Oh God,
it's Alistair. It is. I know it is. He's a pretty boy.
Yeah, no, maybe. Anyways, let's go some pros and cons. Time for some pros and cons. We got nothing. No. Pros, I say we have to think some pros, like this is a very ambiguous topic and is probably not the best choice for it, but whatever.
No, but I think
let's start with JRPGs.
The good things with JRPGs is that they do have that a lot of times they do that progression really well, like I mentioned, where they start like really, really small and then they end up like at the fucking heights of the universe. They do that really, really well most of the time. Like, very rarely do I see a case where it's like, okay, this is terribly done. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
And the best part, like, it's telling you, it's basically like a really good story that you're being told about, like, this insanely epic adventure. And, like you said, over the top, killing gods and all those kinds of things. And
But
like,
on the contrary,
who doesn't love a good epic adventure, right?
of course, that's the whole point of RPGs. That's the whole reason the tabletops are a thing, is you can go and have your own adventure.
Exactly. And that
with
brings
all
me
your
to the
friends.
Western games. Pros.
I'd like to make a con for JRPGs here.
Well, we're doing pros first. You get your cons afterwards.
Oh, we're doing pros. Okay, then.
Okay. So pros, just keep it under your hat until we get to the cons.
Okay. I don't have a hat on, but okay.
Keep it under your hair. So
I don't have hair, but okay.
fair enough. I'm
very bald.
On that same idea, same approach, though, with the Western ones, a pro I would say is, unlike JRPGs where they're telling you an epic story, a lot of times in Western ones you are in that epic story, and that is the only way I can see a step. That's the only way I can see a step forward. That's even better than reading or seeing an epic story, is being part of it. And let me tell you, nothing's better than a cutscene with your really weird-looking character in it, dressed up in the worst-looking outfit ever.
With your like purple hair and your gigantic hook nose and your chin that droops to your knees and all that weirdness.
And your clothing that none of it matches.
All of it's just
a big cheese hat
covered
on
in
your
blood.
Yeah.
Yep. there's a feeling of more being able to like craft. You're directly impacting your story in a Western RPG as opposed to a JRPG, which is more like
a semi-interactive book.
Yeah, it's like the difference between like it's reading a book and like actually like playing a game. It's weird because you are playing a game. You are like impacting it, but you're not like
but
if
it's
you
still
go
not you.
No, because you're
your
just
touch has not been added to it by having your own OC character in there.
Yeah, it's like the best I can describe it is like if you're watching a play, and then like when you get like your playbill or whatever, there's just like beside a little character, there's a little note that says "This is you," and then like occasionally you can like yell out things to the person like in the stage play, and they'll like look at you and nod and give you the thumbs up, and that's like a JRPG.
He'll be like,
in a very crude sort of sense.
Got it. I'll do this.
Like I got you. I'll use the healing potion. I got you.
Whereas you can basically picture yourself as literally being that custom character you made, and it's not like, okay, you're doing this now, and thumbs up. It's this time is like, I am going to go do this.
It's like buying a ticket to a play, and then you're just immediately whisked back to the dressing room and like thrown into the costume.
Guess what? You're part of the play now.
Basically, yeah.
Oh goodness.
But one of the problems with that, like with JRPGs, there's pros and cons to all of it because there's no like a perfect approach. It depends on what kind of story you want to tell and what kind of game you want to make.
True.
With that, you can end up with a lot of types of games.
Are we going to cons now?
I think so. I think we can like touch on cons, like comparing them to the pros we've discussed.
Fair enough.
And the problem is you can have it where like the story is like a shambled mess. Like where like there's like JRPGs, there's an act 1, act 2, act 3. It's very, very structured. It's, like they know exactly what they're doing. You can go off and grind this or do side quests, but it's still not going to like mess up the flow of the story too much.
Mm-hmm.
But in like Western RPGs, like in Skyrim, you can just never do the main quest. Like as soon as you leave that starting area, you can just go and do whatever. You can do this thing and that thing, and then the story is just in shambles, and it's an entirely different story.
And to a game like Skyrim's credit, it doesn't need me sucking stick or anything like that because it's it's already been bought by people multiple times on multiple systems. But the thing is,
yourself included.
Yes, yes, indeed. But the thing is, in a case like Skyrim, you have the situation where, yes, you didn't go and do the thing that started the whole thing that makes you the Dragonborn, but when you walk into a town and you talk to certain people, they will react differently to you than they do when you're the Dragonborn.
Yes.
Because word has gotten around after you've become the Dragonborn, but you're just some other loser that just walked in out of nowhere otherwise.
Like you're making your own story, it's just not the story that the developers intended. And it's not going to be like this refined story like with like a perfect act 1, 2, and 3. It's just gonna be like a whole bunch of stuff happening.
If you do it the right way, it could be like Act 1, 5, 10, and 7.
Yeah, or act like 1, 3, 2, 6, 9. Like it's all the acts, just like right at once.
It can be if you want it to be, because that's just the power of freedom, I guess, is the best way to put it. Because an open world RPG is what the games like Skyrim and Fallout and such like that. I'm giving, of course, Bethesda examples, but they have kind of been the forefront of being some of the best open world RPGs out there. They're not the only ones, of course.
In
but
the modern era, especially like these days, it's like Bethesda games. It's like BioWare games. It's The Witcher. It's that sort of thing. It's the
Witcher. Sorry, that is another really good one. It is technically open world. So
yes.
CD Projekt Red is just amazingly good studio. So
here's hoping that Cyberpunk 2077 will come out sometime before I die.
Fair enough. So before next Tuesday, gotcha.
Another thing I'd like to discuss in terms of pros and cons is the typical combat system. Because in most like modern RPGs, it's like a pseudo turn-based thing. Like it's either like pure action, like hack and slash, or like a shooter or whatever, or it's like real time with pause, basically, where you can cue like actions and then it'll play out, or you can change actions and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's more action focused, whereas JRPGs are usually just like standard turn based. So in a lot of the series these days, like the big mainstay JRPGs like Final Fantasy 15 are turning to more action combat.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, and that's, I don't know, people got short attention spans or something, I don't know. But the thing being with that is that's not all of them, because here's the thing, you're saying back a while there that what we were both saying is that both sides are adopting things from the other side. And I actually just came to my mind while we were talking about it here. Because the way that a lot of the turn-based RPGs on the JRPG side go is usually a case of literally the characters are standing in there. Now, I should say this is the random encounter style one.
As most JRPGs, even these days, still use a kind of...
It's not the only one, though.
Encounter. No, but it's like been the predominant one for like the last 20 years, basically.
And it is partially one of my favorite styles too. But the thing is, it'll tell you the screen warps and you're teleported to a battle arena area kind of thing, where your characters stand on one end, the monsters stand on the other, and then you take turns throwing attacks at each other.
Yes, it's a more like it's slower. It can be more tactical if you have a good developer who knows how to like design a good video game.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's different types to those turn-based battles too. Take the what's it called, ATB style from the Final
active
Fantasy
turn battle.
Yeah, ATB. It's the style from basically all the Final Fantasies, or at least the earlier ones, anyways.
Yeah.
And then, because that one there, a lot of those rely on a meter, so you have to wait for the meter to fill up again before you can take your turn. It means, of course, the enemies also have their same own invisible meter that you can't see, of course, but that fills up and does their turn. Then you go to another one, say, for one of the ones I like. There's Breath of Fire 3, and everything it is what I call pure turn-based. There is no meter. All it is literally a case of you choose what each of your characters do that turn, and the monsters obviously do the same, and but not that you know, it's just literally you don't know what they're going to do until you hit go or whatever, and it's basically a case of you tell them what to do, and whoever has the highest speed stat kind of thing out of all of them, monster and hero, gets to go first, and then it goes down the line. It's very much like the like in D&D with the what is that? Initiative, yeah. So going from that, yeah, it's very, very turn. It is what I call pure turn-based because there's no meter, there's nothing in there. It is literally everybody, whoever has the high speed stat, goes first, and then just goes down the way. So.
Or if we can suck Megami Tensei dick for like another more second.
Why not?
you have the press turn system where
I'll let you explain that one.
Yes, I'll be in terms of like the SMT stuff because the Persona series has its own kind of variant on that, where you have as many moves as you have people in the party. So you have one move. Let's say there's 3 people, you have 1 move each. But then if you had a weakness, you get access to another move. You can pass, and that'll give you another move as well. And if you miss, that'll take away moves, and if you critical, that'll also give you moves. Like basically, you have to play smart, and you. Like, if you play smart enough, you can just wipe out the entire enemy in one turn because you're targeting all the weaknesses, and you get all the more turns and things. And it's really not... I think that Atlas is the only developer that really does that.
Yeah, I haven't
I
seen
can't.
that style of a system anywhere else. It is very intuitive. Well, I don't know if it's intuitive, but it's very inventive, I should say. I'd say it's
I
fairly
thought
intuitive, but
I'd say, yeah, it's reasonably intuitive. Like it kind of make I think it makes a decent amount of sense. You target weaknesses,
it's
like, and you
annoying as
get
hell
bonuses.
at times, though.
Yeah, because the
Especially
enemies
the
can also
losing
do
a
the same
turn
to
if
you.
miss kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, risk and reward, I suppose, is a big part for that style of turn base.
Like the game is testing your puzzle solving ability, let's say, whereas like with Western RPGs it's usually more like timing and reflexes and that sort of thing. Excuse me.
What the heck?
Like that what?
What was that?
Oh, I burped.
Oh, okay. Continue.
Like say like Mass Effect, where the game is mostly a shooter if you play a certain class, or you know there are other
Well,
classes you
technically,
can
it's
play.
always a shooter. Just you're more soldier-like
magic.
with certain things. Yeah,
You-
space
you're-
magic.
It's a shooter, or it's a shooter with space magic.
Basically.
And that's entirely on reflexes. You have to be able, you can get behind cover and you can pop out of cover, and you have to choose when to aim at the enemy and that sort of thing, and where to aim. And it's not like it's a Twitch sort of thing. You have to think on the fly. You have to think right away. You're not playing like 3D chess. You're playing like a sport. Let's say you're playing like what's a sport people play these days?
Soccer.
Yes, it's
Sorry,
like playing soccer.
sorry, football.
I was gonna say American football because it's very
Fair enough.
rough and it's very aggressive,
Oh,
and you have to.
in that case,
you have to-
rugby.
There you go. You have to think on your feet. But yeah, but JRPG is like a 4D chess game sort of thing.
Yeah.
In good games, anyways.
And to be fair, both sides are completely good in their own right because they both flex their own certain thing. Like you say, with the more traditional RPG style, it more makes you think about tactics and in your timed situation. Whereas things like the Mass Effect games work on your it's still the same tactical kind of thing, but you have to actually work with those tactics. You actually have to, yeah, like you say, twitch reflexes and stuff like that. But it's still it's even a little more on the combat tactics side. It's not just like you say, it's more of a puzzle, well, not a puzzle, a board game. You said 4D chess or something.
Yes.
It is a board game basically style of doing it. Whereas it's much more. They're both good. I'm just getting at that. I think I'm just reiterating what you're saying.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of game you want to make. Like Mass Effect is basically like an 80s like sci-fi TV show or movie, like something you'd see on like cable at like 1 in the afternoon or something, with like cheesy dialogue and cheesy special effects, but you have a good time at the end of the day, and that makes sense with a shooter type of game.
And don't forget the alien sex.
Yes, with fucking blue women, who are all women.
All women.
All women except for the Fuda penises. Anyways,
We won't get into that.
with like JRPGs, where you have to think like tactically and move slowly and methodically. Like let's talk about SMT some more, because I can't not talk about SMT. Apparently, Nocturne, where you're SMT3 Nocturne.
For those not remembering, SMT stands for Shin Megami.
Shin Megami Tensei. Yeah, and it's a hard game. It's a very difficult game, and it's a dark game where you have to think and you have to move very cautiously. So you have to think about your moves, and it makes sense for that kind of game.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was eating a chip.
I was having a drink of my drink.
So yeah, there we go. That's what the dead air is for. It's not that we're amateurs or anything.
No, I think we're in agreement that JRPGs and Western RPGs are both good. They're as good at different things.
I think now it's time for us to start finding some examples.
Let's start with good stuff, because I think we might have more in agreement here.
I feel like this is going to spiral downwards from here.
Probably when we have to start like talking about like objective things that we like this is a thing that I like, this is a thing that I don't like.
I think we can't be fully objective in this situation. We brought this up basically out of personal choice, anyways. So
basically, so yeah, let's do 3 games that we each think are very good Western RPGs.
Yeah. 3. We'll do 3 each of J and 3 each of W.
Yeah. So I will let you start.
All right. Well, for the JRPG ones, there, I think one of the more obvious ones I'll do is the one my avatar's from is Chrono Cross, and it is a very good example of a turn-based system where, and I think we should go into a little information as to why they're good too. It's not just like it's good.
It's really good.
It has its own. It's one of the few that has its own take on the turn-based system. Like with the what I call pure turn-based with the Breath of Fire series, it does it so that each character has a turn, although it's not based on speed stat. When they have their turn, they attack. Like you're on say it's on Kid's turn, so you go in and you attack. But the thing is that when it comes to the regular attacks, they come down with they have 3 different strengths of attacks. There's like a light hit, a mid hit, and a hard hit. And each one has a percentage to hit. And of course, when you start, you get to do. You have like this. Oh god, it's really hard to describe it. It makes it sound a lot more complicated than it is.
Game mechanics are weird because they're complicated to like describe, but once you start playing it, it makes perfect sense.
You basically have a meter of how many times you can use an attack each time.
Okay.
You can so many attacks you can do kind of thing, and basically. Were you on that very first hit, if you were to try to go for the hard hit, it's going to have only like maybe a 50% or lower chance to hit. Okay. So, risk and reward. But say if you did 2 light hits, and those are going to have a near 100% most of the time. If you did 2 light hits, and then you went to that heavy hit, the heavy hits percentage will be much higher. Okay. So you kind of build up the ability to actually hit harder, hit better, or hit more accurately with that stronger hit.
It sounds like an interesting combat system. It's not like just like your standard.
I'll have to show it to you sometime. I've been meaning to show you the game anyways, so don't worry. I won't make you play it for the channel.
I don't believe that for an instant, but okay.
Okay, now on the other topic there to do with it, a lot of times with fantasy JRPGs and stuff, there's magic. Okay. That's pretty much a given. And this one...
Is there a fantasy JRPG that doesn't have magic?
If there is, I'd actually be curious to see it. I want to know how they did it and how much trash it is.
I was going to say Dark Souls, but it has magic. Nobody uses it.
Fair enough. Probably except for the bad guys, I'm guessing. But
no, I'm talking like players. Nobody uses magic.
Nobody uses the magic. But the magic system in Chrono Cross is called elements. And everybody has this grid, basically. It's kind of interesting. It's like this little grid thing where you can. There's only there's certain I can't speak. There's multiple levels to each part of the grid. Okay. That you can place these elements on, which are the spells, basically. They're different elemental, like fire and wind and earth and stuff like that. And you put them on there, and of course, each character has their own affinity. So, of course, the spells that they have the affinity for, the element they have the affinity for, are obviously going to be stronger.
Yeah.
So, going with that way there, you want to try to put those on there, but sometimes you just need to fill in space with other spells, too. And they'll still do perfectly fine with it. So... where was I? Oh yeah, elements. And on top of that, each character has...
Now who's been drinking?
Yeah, water. Nothing gets me crazier than water, let's tell you. Each character also has 3 special abilities. Each at a different point on the grid that you can work up to. Did I mention that those attacks, by the way, put you up on the grid so you can actually access the spells? So... The reason you'd want to go for that hard-hitting attack is because it'll add 3 levels to the grid, so you can get 3 levels into the spells to choose from.
This sounds very strange and vaguely convoluted, but I imagine as soon as you start playing it makes perfect sense.
Exactly. It is something that's so much easier to see and do than it is to explain. That's why I'll probably cut it short a little bit on that, because I could keep going for a while.
I don't think we need to go into every single mechanic with it. Just a brief summary is probably... enough, otherwise,
to understand, to prove how good it is, I need to give every mechanic.
Oh, God.
Did I mention there's a totally messed up story, and the only way to get every one of the, I think, 60-something characters you have to play through, 3 times?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Okay, well, I'll leave that one there, because that's that one. My second good example is... Breath of Fire 3, actually, I mentioned before. So I've already mentioned a bit, like the what I call pure turn base, is really a really interesting way of doing it, because at one point you don't really have as much fear of things happening while you're waiting for your turn. Like with the ATB style, you still are going to get hit by enemies while you're waiting for your bar to fill up.
Yeah.
But in that one there, everybody chooses their abilities, all the attacks happen in the round. So you can that one is even more like a chess game in that one, because there is no
it is very strict turn based.
Yeah, strict turn based. It's got nice little semi mechanics and stuff like that. Like you can learn there's certain abilities can be learned from enemies if you tell your characters to watch them instead of defend or anything like that. They'll just spend a turn watching them and hoping that the enemy uses the ability to learn and such. So, and you can interchange the abilities between the characters at camp and stuff. So, but it's got a very stereotypical story. It's basically the dragon hero. It's the boy who can turn into dragons, and he takes on the big evil goddess. So. Oh,
it's a goddess this time. Oh my god.
Oh, in one of them it was a god.
So original.
In the second one it was a god, but he was kind of like a pretender god taking the place of the goddess. So.
Okay.
The second one was literally all about religion.
That sounds like a very inflammatory game that no one will disagree with, and everyone's gonna have a great time about.
Also had a cat girl. So.
Best game of all time now, of course.
Exactly. Anyways,
we understand.
It's all good. It's all good. So fetishes for the rest of us. Anyways, so my third one. I'm just trying to think here I've played too many.
This is helpful for me because it's giving me time to think about.
Good. I'm on my last one. You better have some.
I've got a couple.
Okay, good. But anyways, so my third and final JRPG. I think it's going to have to be Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
The Final Fantasy series is quintessentially one of the best-known JRPG series.
For JRPGs, there's like two names that come to mind. It's Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest.
Yeah, and I do like Dragon Quest, but for my choices, of course, I haven't played it anywhere near as much as the Final Fantasy series. And for the reason for 7 is, well, it's kind of obvious. Everybody knows 7. Everybody loves 7.
Even I played 7 before you made me play 6, which is very interesting.
There you go. The thing is, it's nearly ubiquitous in its own right. The thing is, it's got its own story that's somehow very straightforward and yet so convoluted that you think you've figured everything, and then you find out, hey, watch this little OVA video that exists there, and it'll answer everything. That's not. I'm not even joking on that, by the way.
Which OVA are you talking about?
There's an OVA to do with how Cloud got Zack's sword and everything like that, and took over thinking he was a soldier and everything like that. Spoilers for however many year-old game.
It's like 20. I think 1990. It's 98 or 99 it came out, so it's fairly old at this point.
It is not young, anyways, and yet they're still releasing it. It just released on Switch recently.
And the remake is coming out presumably sometime before I die.
Hopefully, I'm not 100% sure it's not vaporware at this point, but.
Oh, probably.
But like I said, going back into that, there's not even anything really super special about that one. It uses the Final Fantasy ATB system. You have a cast of very diverse and interesting characters. It's not just like this person's this class and this one's this class. You have a crazy guy who wields a huge freaking sword. You got a cranky old man that wields a spear. You got a well and truly busty girl who is an amazing martial artist. And you got a black guy with a gun on his arm. So,
oh my god.
Yeah, I know. The world isn't ready.
This might sound like such a weird thing, but like a lot of like Japanese shit in like the 80s have like just the token black guy. Like anime and manga and video games, there's always just like one black guy just like in there and nobody else. Everyone else is Japanese, but there's the one black guy.
Did you ever watch TV shows in the 80s? They all had a token black guy too.
Fair. That was just a thing that happened in the 80s across the world, as there was a token black guy in everything.
Too real for me, fam. Let me tell you. Alright, so what are your 3?
This is a big mood?
What are your 3?
Okay, my first one is Parasite Eve. Have you played it?
I know of it. I know some basics, but I've never played it, no.
Okay, I was first introduced to it from a Let's Play, and I was like, this game looks fucking batshit. This looks like the most insane, strange thing I've ever heard in my life, and I still haven't beaten the game. I'm like partway through.
Is it actually an RPG? I thought it was something more along the lines of like Resident Evil.
It's like a weird. It's a very It's kind of weird. Let me explain. Let me to explain.
Let me explain.
I was waiting for that. I knew it. I knew it.
Anyways,
so when you get into like a certain area with like an enemy, like okay, so you get into a certain area, it's kind of like a random battle sort of thing. But you're in that actual area, so like the camera will move over a little bit because there's like I'm guessing there's like certain areas that are specified as like combat areas in like the game's engine or something.
Probably.
And like the enemies will spawn, and it is kind of like an active time battle thing where your meter will fill up, and you have a bunch of different options. You have spells, and you have attacks, and you have quite a few options, and you can move the enemy, you can slow down the enemy's meter, that sort of thing. It's one of the few active time battle systems I've seen outside of like a Final Fantasy. But it's got like a really weird sci-fi horror story that was based off of like a 90s Japanese sci-fi novel. It was written by like a pharmacologist, and he wanted to write about like mitochondria and shit.
It's the powerhouse of the cell.
Indeed. And it's so weird, and the game is like actually like a sequel to the original novel. They mention like the events of the novel, like this is a thing that happened, now it's happening in America, and like here. Oh my god, I just thought about this. Parasite Eve has the obligatory black cop, too!
Oh god.
You play as you're a half Japanese, half white cop. You're a young blonde woman, and you're paired with like a middle-aged black guy. And,
of course.
Yes.
And they don't get along.
They actually do get
I'm sure
get along fairly well.
That was like another 80s trope. It's like, she's like this by the book white cop, and he's this off the rails black cop, and together they don't get along.
And Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider, yeah.
Rob Schneider is a young white woman.
Of course he is. That's what he's always wanted to be. But
it is like a really, really good game, and it's not like too long a game. I appear to be like halfway through the game, I think, at this point. It's fairly short as far as JRPGs go, and there's a lot of like creepy horror stuff, but there's like upgrading, and there's like you do level up, and you can choose like it's not like huge unlike the RPG stuff, and you don't like influence things a whole lot. It's very typically JRPG, but it's still really, really good.
Alrighty.
I would highly recommend it. It's on PlayStation stores.
So it's one of the classics on the store? All right.
Yeah, I have it on my PlayStation 3.
Alright. So, what's your next one?
My next one...
What else do you got?
None of these are going to start surprising you now.
Oh, really?
Yes. My next one is Persona 2.
Okay.
Not Persona 1.
Not Persona 3.
No. I wanted to talk about older JRPGs. I wanted to talk about something that's like not so obvious, I guess.
Well, we've both taken at least two JRPGs from the PlayStation era, so...
The PlayStation era is one of the best eras in gaming, to be
PS1,
fair.
Yeah, there was a lot of good games in the PS1 era. A lot of trash, too.
Same with the PS2, really.
Fair. Continue.
But anyways, yes, go ahead. I in terms of like the old style Persona games that are more like Shin Megami Tensei, in terms of like there's not a huge focus on character or plot. It's more just like dungeon exploring and demon fusions and like turn-based combat. Like there's not even any press turn system. It's a really, really weird and really forgiving system where at the beginning of the round you can choose all the actions that your characters will take and they'll execute it. But at any point you can just stop, like you can just hit like cancel, and you can just change everybody's orders, and you can change everybody's position and when they'll do things. Like it's really micromanagey, so it's very forgiving. Like it is shocking.
A little closer to the pure turn-based I talk about.
Yeah, it is very pure turn-based. Like you can have weaknesses, but it doesn't like change anything. You can't add turns or nothing. It's so weird, just like how easy it is just to exploit things, but you can just like instantly on the fly just change your character's moves and move them in whatever order you want. But it also still has like the really interesting characters and story of like the later Persona games, and like it's just so good. It's so good. That's all I can say is that it's really, really good. That's all I can say is that it's really, really good.
Alrighty, go ahead for the third.
My third one this is kind of difficult because I'm not sure if you consider it like a JRPG or like an action game with RPG elements. But I'm gonna throw it out here. I'm gonna throw it here. Nier Automata.
It's kind of an action game with RPG elements, but you know what? Bring it up anyways, and we can go into it a little bit on that.
That because it is a very Western-inspired game. It's made by Platinum Games, and they make character action games, and that's basically the thing. Which is, there we go. That's what we can talk. Here we go. It's an American-style Western JRPG. That's my excuse.
There you go.
It's action combat, and you got combos, and you got jumps and kicks and shit. But there's also like
flips and loop-de-loops.
Exactly, but there's also like a ridiculous amount of customization you can do to your character. There's these things called chips. As your character's a robot, so you can have 3 different like chipsets at the same time. You can choose like you can have more health or less health, or you can have like more agility or more speed, or you can do like auto refill your health with items or whatever. You can have auto target. You can take off the UI. Like there's a ridiculous amount of customization you can do in terms of your moveset. There's even like kind of sort of magic powers. Honestly, the original Nier would probably fit better, but the original Nier is kind of weird and not that good.
Fair enough.
The story of the original Nier is far better than the actual gameplay.
Yeah, they blew their load on the story and didn't.
Yoko Taro directed games have this weird thing where like none of them have have really that good gameplay. It's always like the stories are what keep you interested, the stories and the characters and the soundtracks. But Nier Automata, they actually managed to have good gameplay, which is stunning. So,
unprecedented.
Unprecedented, right. Indeed.
So, good examples of Western games.
Yes, shoot.
Well, let's see. Some good examples of Western RPGs. Well, I'm going to put it out there, I think, and I'm putting this out as the first Mass Effect game. And you know what, the second one.
Okay.
Those were really good action RPG types, and I mean, like I say, it's very military-esque like that. It's a lot like shooters in the things. You got cover systems, you got to switch between your guns and such like that. But you do still have space magic, known as biotics.
Yes.
And you got all these crazy space aliens.
It's literally just space magic.
It literally is. You have space elves, which is what I see the Asari as. And
basically, yeah.
I don't know what you'd consider the Turians, but
space dwarves.
I don't know. I was thinking that would fit the Krogans better.
I suppose like space orcs or something like half orcs. They're very militaristic.
Let's put it this way: I think we can both agree that the fucking what the heck are they? The Solarians are gnomes.
Oh yes, they are gnomes. They're. I've never seen a more anti-Semitic cartoon version of an alien in my life. He's just at all times I just imagine him underneath his suit rubbing his hands, and he's got like the little curly things that the Orthodox Jews have. I'm just imagining there's like a vicious anti-Semite working at BioWare.
There's probably at least one. Anyway,
they're Quebecois. That's just what they're like.
But anyways, it's at least for the first two. I'm gonna go on a limb and say something here. I didn't mind the third one. I actually didn't mind it. It did have a weird fucking ending. Yes, of course it did. Of course the DLC fixed that. It shouldn't have had to, but it did. We're not going to get into that. It's very solid gameplay. It's very comfortable. You can get into it. You can go around, shoot aliens, fire off biotic blasts and stuff like that. One of my favorites is the biotic charge, where you literally just warp yourself there and you blast yourself forward and smash.
Right? Yeah, you just. Right. I was like, what the whirl yourself there? What the fuck are you talking about?
I love the biotic charge, because I'll just like shoot, and then their shield's down. I'm like, haha, coming to you, bam.
Fair enough.
And you get that nice little semi-adrenaline rush from getting into it, which is an interesting thing to feel in an RPG. Usually you don't get that.
Yeah.
Let me think, though. Let's see here. What's another good Western RPG? We totally didn't think of this ahead of time. Maybe we should have.
I'm currently thinking of the ones I enjoy and also the ones that I don't enjoy.
Well, you know what? What am I even thinking? KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic.
That's the one we're gonna do. We're gonna do that we agree on.
So we can still agree on it. I'm just bringing up examples.
Okay. Let's talk about. Let's do it right now. Let's just talk about how great KOTOR is.
Yeah, this is the one we will agree on. We are already at 54 minutes anyway, so we can pass on that.
It's only 12 o'clock.
Yeah. But anyways, What, are you thrown off by the fact we're not recording at 3 in the morning?
Oh my god, I can get some sleep.
Sleep is for the dead. Anyways, KOTOR
Whoa.
is Knights of the Old Republic, again made by BioWare, much like some of the other good games out there, of course, Mass Effect.
And some of really bad games.
Lately, generally.
Yeah.
Sadly,
Well, yeah,
and I blame EA more than I do BioWare on that, for the later ones.
Activision. It's Activision BioWare. Wait, no, I'm thinking Blizzard.
EA.
No, you're right. It's EA. It's EA. I'm
Trust
thinking
me,
of Blizzard.
it's EA.
I'm thinking of the other
Yes,
company that
yes,
went to shit.
Blizzard Activision. That's its own problem right there.
Well,
But anyways.
that's our next podcast.
But anyways, going with that, it's what the hell was I talking about? KOTOR, right?
KOTOR.
It's a perfect. It was such a perfect thing when it came out for all fans
the
of
perfect
the
Star Wars game.
Yeah, for all fans of the Star Wars, it didn't just give them something that was like, oh, guess what? Here you're in the Star Wars universe. Here's Luke. Here's Han. You're like, no, you're 1,000 years in the past. You are whoever the hell you want to be. Let's make a fucking story. And it was just like,
You start out as just a dude, and you become a Jedi, and you get. Or, oh my god, I forgot.
Or an alien. If you do like me and get mods, you can play as one of the alien races.
Oh my god, mods.
That was only
over there.
That was only after the first like 5 playthroughs is normal.
All right.
But where are we at? Yeah, you go through and you're. I think I derailed you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go through it and you go. It is a beautiful little thing there, and to the point, it was obviously good enough to the point that even now that the Star Wars franchise is owned by Disney, the Old Republic still survives as canon, as far as I know.
Nope.
Does it not?
No, it's not. Everything is non-canon. It still exists.
Disney
basically
just said, okay, none of this exists and go away, kind of thing. So, I'm surprised they allow the Old Republic MMO to do it. So.
I think I don't think it's canon. I think it's just a thing that's just happening.
I don't see why they shouldn't allow it to be canon. They seem to focus more around the original series timeline and after. So,
well, apparently they are actually making a trilogy of films, from what I've heard, based around the Old Republic, directed, of course, by wonderful, the most greatest, wonderful director in the world, the director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson.
Okay.
I'm going to fucking kill myself. Yes, I am. I hate The Last Jedi.
Okay,
I think Rian Johnson is a hack.
Well, I mean, it could, but you know what? I feel that it could still basically fit because there's as much as Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 has put into that Old Republic timeline along with the Old Republic. Yeah. I feel like there's still so much wiggle room in there to basically do whatever they want with it, and it could probably still fit perfectly in with whatever exists now.
Oh, sure, because I mean, there's a gigantic period of history between. Like, from the time of the founding of the Republic to the start of Episode 1, like, there's thousands of years. You got space to wiggle.
So yeah, that's basically that one. The last one I'm going for a good example, hopefully I'm not stealing one of yours, is Diablo, the Diablo series.
Okay, no, you aren't stealing it.
I am stealing one?
No, you aren't. I don't like Diablo.
Okay, well, the Diablo series I find is a good example. It's more of a looter RPG because there's a lot of it's all about the drops and killing big demons and stuff like that. But I mean, in the first one, you're one of a few class characters, but usually considered to be the Crusader. You go up against Diablo, which is the Lord of Hell. And
is the Crusader like the canonical?
He is the canonical one because in 2, it's his body that that Diablo basically invades and starts wearing as a human suit. Throughout the second one, your characters in the second one are chasing him to go and stop him. Of course, you have to end up fighting Diablo again, and then his brother Baal in the expansion pack. And then in 3, the thing goes off the rails, of course, Diablo again, but this is like years and years after that happened. And basically, you know what, I don't even want to go too far into it, just in case there has been people who haven't played it. So,
yes.
But Diablo comes back, you gotta kill them again. So,
it's a Diablo game. You're gonna fight Diablo.
Exactly. But it's very, very well. They've all been very well set up for how because you start off with a character class. That is your thing. There is you choose your class. You choose your name. Now in 1 and 2, you had no choice in gender. Of course, they're like. In 2, you had to play if you're a necromancer, you had to be a male, obviously, and such like that. But in 3, they had
Are
to
you
give
saying
it
women
just-
can't be necromancers?
I'm saying that they said that in 2, but in 3 they released the necromancer DLC, and you can be a female necromancer. So, yeah, because in 3 you can be male or female of any of the classes. Yes, scandalous, I know. But yeah, that's about all I got on that one. There, Diablo is a very solid series with its characters, an overarching storyline along with the characters that go along with it. There's at least one character that's been in all 3 of them, although he dies in the 3rd one. Spoiler alert. So yeah.
Was that Jordan?
Yeah, so that's all I got to say on that. What are your 3?
Alright, my first one is Mount & Blade Warband. Not the original Mount & Blade, because Warband is like an improvement every single way. It's like a weird standalone expansion pack, but it is improvement every single way. There's like more, it's a bigger map, it's more stuff, it's more options, it's just more everything. This is the kind of game that is pure mechanics. It says, fuck story, if you want to make a story, you make your own story. The story of, like Skyrim, where the story of you wandering around and attacking random village people is your story.
The only problem I had with that game was it was almost a little too open-ended. I didn't know what the hell to do with myself most of the time. But otherwise, it was good, for sure.
I normally don't really like that much openness, but I think Warband is the one exception, because in like the tutorial kind of thing, it does like give you like, here's sort of what you should work towards. Your idea is you can set yourself a goal, but the eventual end goal is to conquer the entire world by yourself, to recruit hundreds of people, to get lords and factions under your side. It's actually, here it is. It's an RPG with no magic. It's basically fantasy because it's in like an alternate universe. It's not in ours. There's like parallel sort of stuff, but it's a very different universe.
But it works more off of a feudal.
Oh yeah, it's
time scale.
It's very historically minded.
Yeah,
but it is. Like, it's just so fantastic. The feeling of slowly conquering the entire world is just like, but like on like a down-to-earth scale where you're right behind your character, as opposed to like a strategy game where you're just seeing like a map slowly turn all your color.
No, yeah, I get what you mean on that.
No, I love it. It's not the most like traditional Western RPG like the next one is, but I love it so much.
Segueing into that.
Yes, it is Dragon Age Origins. Which I think is probably BioWare's best game. And I'd argue it's their last good one, but I always forget that Mass Effect came out afterwards, so Mass Effect is arguably their last good game. But I think it is the pinnacle, it is the heyday of the great classic CRPG with D&D style rules and openings and classes and different races to play, and so many options and so much opening, but also still telling a consistent, like, driven narrative. Like, it has, from start to finish, there is a story, but there's like enough maneuverability within the story, and I love I am a slut for real time with paused combat.
Fair enough. You want to know something sad? I just remembered. I'm ashamed of the fact that I just thought of a better RPG than one of the ones I gave.
Okay, well, what is it? Give it quick.
Considering you're talking about the best BioWare RPG, I have to fight you on that. I'll do a Phoenix right here. Hold it.
What is your
Neverwinter Nights? That is to say the original one.
Yes, I've not played it just except for like the 15 minutes you made me play.
Yeah, is by and large one of their best games, and I put that out there but it's kind of a cheat because it's literally D&D.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So that's why that's why I'll just put it here as it is and not take it and
like
place
a
it
little asterisk.
Yeah, but it is still one of their best games, even after seeing how the graphics do not hold up as well as they used to anymore. I still like it though.
I think they look pretty good, but then again, I think Metal Gear Solid 1 looks fantastic. So
I still can't figure out what the hell I'm doing half the time in it, but you know. One day we'll play more of it for the channel, right, Taylor?
Yes. Next weekend I will come armed with a gun and I will make you play the game.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take you on with my sword. Anyways, continue.
Dragon Age Origins, it's just like it for me it is the pinnacle of what an RPG should be. Like, it's just so good. For like a classic like CRPG, I'm making the circle finger with, you know, I'm doing the gesture.
No,
You know the
I'm
gesture?
not looking. I don't want to lose the game.
Well, lose what game?
You see where the finger, the circle, the finger, the thumb, and the circle. I was like, got him.
Got him.
Anyway, so your third? That was your second one, right?
That was my second one. My third one, because I was not sure which one I should include in here, but you put in a more hack and slash RPG, which is like kind of sort of an RPG, a little bit not. I decided
to be fair, for the Japanese ones, you put in Nier Automata, so you know.
Yes. This game is more of an RPG than Nier Automata. BioShock 2, not BioShock 1, which will. What?
Oh, Jordan said he just likes the android chicks, and I was like, who doesn't?
Big mood, big mood.
Anyways, continue.
Anyways, BioShock 2, it is... Which is such a weird thing, because I know a lot of people, when the game first came out, were like, this is an obvious cash grab, it is shorter than BioShock 1, it is so much more boring, everyone was ragging on it, but I think it is better than BioShock 1.
I might agree with you on that, but I'm going to interject. That's not really an RPG.
It is RPG mechanics. There's enough art. There's enough. We allow. Would you like? Would you like me to actually throw an actual RPG in here?
Thinking about it, but go on. We have to space. We're already over an hour now, so you might as well keep going. I'm just putting in my squinty eyes disdain for the fact that it's not really an RPG. So go ahead.
All right, I'll put an actual RPG in here.
Finish what you're doing. Finish it.
All right, BioShock 2. It's better than BioShock 1. It has a really good story and has the fantastic cast. It's like actually a really good story and has great gameplay and lots of options and lots of things. Anyway, really good 10 out of 10 game.
Why did you speed up so quickly? Jesus.
I'm channeling the spirit of Eric Idle. He came in and just possessed me very briefly.
Oh my lord. He's not dead.
He isn't?
No, he isn't dead. I don't think he is.
All right, hold on. Let me Google it.
Well, while we're doing that, we're going to go.
No, he's still alive.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Fuck. Okay.
He's old, quite old, but he's not dead.
Also, I was thinking of a different person. I think I'm thinking of a different person. Anyways.
So you've gotten that out of your system for the good example?
I've gotten out of my system.
So anyways, we're on to the bad examples, and I think in the case of saving some time here, we're going to go with one bad
example. Let's just do one.
One each, for each thing, obviously.
Yeah.
So, shall I go first, or do you want to go first?
You go first, as is tradition at this point.
Yes, of course, just so you have time to think of things.
I already know at least one example.
A bad example of... I'm actually going to go with Western RPG on the first because I'm still trying to think of a bad JRPG.
Okay.
Just saying. And the bad Western RPG is actually one we played on our channel.
What is it?
And that is Beast Quest.
Oh god, that was really bad, to be fair.
Yeah. Now,
TBH
part of that was from the engine, which is, I think it was Unity, wasn't it?
I think it was Unreal.
Yeah, I have something to tell you about after the video about that whole Unity engine thing. I made a stupid choice today. Anyway.
Oh.
That's for off mic. So
Okay.
So yeah, Beast Quest. You go around. I'm gonna rehash what we said on there because God knows how many people actually watched that.
I think a few actually.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll say it anyways. The characters felt like they basically tore them straight out of Fable and tried to basically 7-Eleven version of them.
That is a fantastic example, is 7-Eleven Fable.
The controls were very, very badly done, and the story, like, who gave a crap? I mean, also, wasn't there that opening roll or something like that had, like, art looked like it was drawn by a 10-year-old DeviantArt or something like that?
I only vaguely remember that game, and that is for the best. I'm trying to suppress all memory of that.
Yeah, and the battle system, I admit, if it had been done properly, could have been actually really good. But it wasn't done properly.
Oh god, no, it was terrible.
Because what they did was they basically made it so that it was like you go into battle. It was a random encounter style thing, but it was more like the random encounter, like you run into something on the map. And then you go into a separate screen. Which, by the way, I should mention, going back to it, Chrono Cross does that, but they do it right.
Yes.
Going into that, you go in there, and then you have the monsters or the enemies in front of you, but you have the ability to slide your character to the side or something, so they are in front of one of the other ones.
It was so awkward. It was so bad.
And then you have to, like, time your hits and stuff like that. Like, there's just a theme of action. It was just trash. So trash.
It was 7-Eleven Fable.
It literally was.
Which is a great name for a band.
Even the kid even the main character, looks like the kid, like he was trying to be
the kid from Fable 1.
Fable 1, yeah. So it was just, I don't know, it was just pure trash for me. And I'm going to let you go with the Western one, because I still have to think on my JRPG one.
Even I can't even. I've yet to even come up. I've come up with one for a JRPG, but that's only because it's mediocre. I can't even come up with like a bad one because I haven't played enough. Persona 4. I've ragged enough on Persona 4.
Fair enough.
Except I haven't.
Except you haven't, so you're going to keep going.
Yes, I'm going to say very briefly, Persona 4 is such an incredibly mediocre game on like every single level, and I really do not know how the hell Atlas milked it for like 10 fucking years before Persona 5 came out. I really don't. Like, it is...
Go into some detail, Taylor.
Every single character... We talked about this in our Persona podcast, but I'll speak very briefly. Every single character has... You just want to kill for time,
yes,
don't you?
I do, because I really need to find... I'm looking at my game lists right now.
You're just like... Yikes. Every single character has, like, 2 personality traits.
Mm-hmm.
Even the good ones have, like, 2 personality traits. It is one of the most boring final bosses in any game I've played. Like, it is so fucking boring. I didn't even give a shit. It comes out of, the final boss comes out of nowhere. There's nowhere near enough foreshadowing, and like the boss is really boring. The bosses are really boring. The game has the weirdest difficulty curve, where like the are really difficult, and then they get easier as the game goes on. It's so strange. And the setting is boring. I live in a small town. It sucks dick. I hate it. I don't want to.
To be fair, that means that you probably have a lot to agree with Yosuke.
Shut the fuck up about Yosuke.
Right.
What's the image of the guy slamming the desk? Shut up about Yosuke. Shut up about Yosuke.
Stop trying to make Yosuke happen.
No, we're not. We're not beginning about Yosuke.
Not going to go into that.
We're not going to go into Yosuke.
Okay.
I mean, I will in my hentai dojins. I will obviously.
How about you go into a little more? I'm going to set my headphone down because I have to remember the name of this one game that I'm going to talk about. I have it on my shelf. I just can't remember what the fuck the name is. So you keep talking.
Okay.
Tell us how much you hate Persona 4.
Persona. Oh my god. I think I've said enough. I'd like to talk about a good game. I'd like to talk about a bad Western game. Well, Clayton is gone, and so he will not rank me for it. I'm going to talk about how much I fucking hate Dragon Age Inquisition. Dragon Age Origins is the 10 out of 10 game. It does nothing wrong.
I'm back.
Okay, I decided to start talking about a Western game I hate because I'm tired of talking about Persona 4.
I'll continue.
I hate Dragon Age Inquisition. It's a shit game. The combat is shitty hack and slash. It's like an MMO combat where there's with like cooldowns and also a mana pool, and yet it has, and all the quests are like MMOs where it's like grindy, get this thing and then get that thing and capture the command post. Watch out for those wrist rockets. Except like not fun at all because you're not playing it with a bunch of other people at like 1 a.m.
Did you say watch out for those wrist rockets?
Yes. Have you not played Battlefront 2? The original Star Wars Battlefront 2.
The original one, not the new one, you're saying?
No.
Okay, because I played the new one too, and it's...
Have you played the old one?
Yes. I didn't know we'd gone off into that. You were talking about Dragon Age Inquisition, and then next time I'm listening there, you're just
I'm doing
wrist
memes.
rockets.
I'm doing memes. Sir, do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior?
No.
Our Lord and Savior Battlefront 2?
No.
Hey, all the characters in Inquisition are boring. Most of the time, they don't talk to each other because the game is bugged. And, like, when I played it, it was still incredibly fucking bugged. There's supposed to be moments where if you walk over, like, a certain bit of area, or, like, a patch of terrain or something, or a landmark, your characters will talk to each other. It'll be, like, a randomly triggered conversation, like in Origin and 2. But when I played the game, it was fucking bugged, and there were no conversations between anybody.
Okay, all the characters... I haven't had any problems with my copy, but were you playing on computer?
Nope.
Oh, PS4?
PS3.
Oh, PS3.
Which might possibly be the issue.
You're playing a last gen version of it. It's just trash.
Because that was years ago when the first game first came out. I was very excited for it.
It's much better quality if you play it on the new gen, this gen systems or computer.
Is it going to have give the game good writing and gameplay as well? Is it going to give the game a final?
100%.
Is it going to give the game a final boss that isn't shit and is somehow fucking worse than Izanami from Persona 4?
There you go.
Yeah, no, Dragon Age Inquisition is a garbage game.
I'm going to have
to
disagree with you, but I'm not going to get into it too heavily because I prefer Inquisition over any of them. So
this is very bizarre to me.
To me, it has a better story, and I just enjoy the combat more. So.
This is surreal. This is very, very strange. Anyways, tell me about
At least it takes solace in the fact that Jordan agrees with you that the first one's the best. You're both heinously wrong, but of course I'll let it slide this time.
Anyways, tell us about your shit JRPG.
So, anyways, I have to do a 50-50 split between two of them.
Okay.
One is called.
The rules don't allow that, but okay.
I make the rules, Taylor.
I am the Senate.
I am the Senate. Is that legal? I will make it legal. But anyways, there's two of them on the PlayStation 3. There's one called Folklore, and one called White Knight Chronicles. And I'll go.
I've heard of both.
Both of them? Okay, so I'll go shortly into each of them very quickly here. Folklore actually, I believe it is a JRPG. I think it's made by a Japanese company. But interestingly, it actually focuses more on like British-themed things to do with fairies and such like that. And
okay, yes, this is the game I'm thinking of. Apparently, it is Japanese, so there you go.
Okay, good. I was pretty sure on that part. And it's. I don't know. And it goes. You go through. You're going through a separate world as either this one guy or this girl. They have their own storylines going through it, and I mean it's not horrible. I do find it slightly entertaining, but it's one of the ones that comes with a sin of it just gets boring fast. It should.
That can kill a lot of games.
It has so much potential to it, but the thing that's so egregious to me is that it just allows itself to get boring. And
how so?
You just repetition, a lot of repetition. Okay. Sure, you got new enemies and stuff like that, and you basically catch these fairies like Pokemon style to power up your character and such, and that makes use of the motion controls because you have to like move the controller around like you're pulling them into the controller kind of thing.
That sounds terrible, but okay.
It's entertaining, but the thing is that you just after a while it's just like that's what you're doing. There's a bit of a story, and then you wander around, do some more.
Like, there's no variation or change or anything.
It's very. I kind of hesitate to put this one here because it's a very, very slightly RPG. It has a bit more to the action side than the other ones, but then I let you have BioShock too. So,
yes.
The other side of the coin.
You also let me have Nier Automata, but
yeah. So the other side of the coin is White Knight Chronicles, which is very anime styled fantasy fare. And like the idea is that there's these giant. There's a whole lot more to it than this, but I'm making it short. Is that there's these giant armors, basically. That it's kind of like fantasy mechs, is what it is.
That sounds interesting. How is this bad? Please explain.
It's bad because of the way they presented the game. It should have been great because how can you mess up fantasy mecha situation, right?
You wouldn't think it would be hard.
Because really what it is, the mecha, so to speak, I can't remember what the proper term are for them, frames or something like that, I think. But they're basically giant suits of armor.
Okay.
And the character, there's only like certain set characters that can use them, and they kind of come out after certain that was one of my problems, is that you have to get like a meter up over battle to actually be able to summon the armor.
Oh, so sort of like a limit break.
Basically, kind of thing. And you bring it out, and then you control this giant armor that can just sweep around on battle and smash things. But that's not even the thing. I can forgive that, because you know what? Maybe it'd be a little too overpowered if you just bring it out whenever you wanted.
Unless you, like, build the game around that.
Basically. But, no, the problem I have is the fact that when you bring it out, it has a limit. I can't remember if it's a time limit or if it's like a hit limit or something like that.
That sounds
but one way or
really
another, it goes
terrible.
away. You get way too little time with the giant armor, and then you have to fight enemy after enemy after enemy, and then fill that bar up, and then kick them out again. And on top of that, it has a really good story to it, but the way they present it is in like let me think here. You know how there's those games where they have a here's your map screen, select this area and select a mission from it kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. Sort of like a game I've been playing recently, Darkest Dungeon, kind of.
Yeah, basically. Only Darkest Dungeon does it properly.
Yes.
But going with that, it does that, and that's how it presents its story and such like that. And I don't know, except in the case of Darkest Dungeon, I've never really been a big fan of that style. I should mention, like,
well.
just another feather to this thing's cap that it should have been a really good game is that there's, how there's usually the old mentor kind of character like that comes along. The old mentor character, I don't know, you remember a show called The Nanny?
Who was in it?
Fran Drescher was the main character.
Okay, I think I'm
Really
vaguely
annoying voice.
with
She
it.
talked like this and stuff like that.
Yes. Why are we
Anyways,
talking about the nanny?
I'm going there because the father from that voices that guy, and I think he's like this he's got a really awesome. He's British. He's got a really awesome voice and talent to it, and like it's I don't know. I just think he's a really good actor, and when you have a really good actors, because some of the other ones are really well done too, and the fact that it just, they made a second one, nobody remembers it.
I've seen the game many, many times in EB Games, going for very, very cheap for many years now.
Of course,
I remember there was like a double pack too. It was like a double pack of games that are very similar. One of them was White Knight Chronicles 1 and 2.
I should mention it also had the ability to build you could build your own base kind of thing like that, build a little village kind of thing. But the downside to that was it was kind of a semi-microtransaction thing. So, yeah, it was dumb.
In the PS3 era.
Yes.
Oh God.
Oh, Japanese JRPGs were the first ones to do like pay stuff like that, or maybe not the first ones, but they were one of the earlier ones.
They were big on it.
Yeah. And that's probably another reason why White Knight Chronicles didn't do as well, is because nobody wanted to do that thing. I mean, you could play the game without ever doing it, but why leave a part of the game completely gone if you want to play the game?
Fair enough, yeah.
So, anyways, that's it for me on that, I'd say. So,
alright, so should we talk about the game, the JRPG that we both agree is good, because we only
let's finish up on a high note because we're going to be at an hour and a half in shortly.
Because we neglected we talked incredibly briefly about KOTOR.
Well, we don't need to say anything about KOTOR. It speaks for itself. And to be fair, we don't need to say much about this one because we've already said everything about it. And the one we agree on is Persona 5.
Yes.
And Persona 5 is by far, to my mind, anyways, I'm going to say this, is still the best Persona game. You're going to disagree.
Yes.
Because you think
I'd say it's the second best Persona game, but we discussed this. It's because you have authority issues, and I think everybody is too much of a pussy, except they're going to die.
Well, yeah, it's that is more to do with upbringing just our own personal lives too, more than anything.
Yeah, it's these games appeal to our specific aesthetics, so that we enjoy them more.
I've always been a tad anti-establishment, but I'm just too damn lazy to do anything about it.
And I'm an emo boy.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, I don't think there's much to say about it. I think we've talked about 5 on and off throughout multiple bloody videos. So like,
we will continue to talk about it.
We will continue to, and fight over which one's better. It's just how it's going to go. So look forward to that, viewers.
At some point, we will absolutely play one of the Persona games on the channel. A full Let's Play. I will make you do it.
I'm in.
All right, cool.
You really think it was? You thought it was going to be a lot harder than that, didn't you?
I was expecting like 1% more fight, but not that. Not a ton.
I like the Persona series. Like, I actually like all of them. It's just that I find 5 to be the best one. So
there you go.
And unlike you, I actually like 4. So.
Yeah, but you rated 4 like. We in the Persona podcast, we were like, let's give ratings, and you rated 4 lower than me, which is very strange.
It doesn't mean I don't like it.
Fair enough.
It has interesting characters. That's one of my favorite things to it. That's all I'll add to that.
All right, let's. I think we've said everything that needs to be said.
I think we've wasted enough time.
Alright, so the YouTube channel's done then? We've wasted enough time?
No, God, no. Just on this video. We're still going to waste tons more time in the future.
Oh my god!
Thank you for that ear rape there, Taylor. Oh god, no, ear rope. Rope. I shouldn't be saying that word on YouTube. I'll have to bleep this.
Rape.
I'll murder you.
ASMR rape.
I'll just cut this part. You know I have the power.
You don't have the energy or the initiative. You won't.
To be fair, it's right at the end of the video, so it wouldn't be that hard for me.
I don't think you'll care enough. I really don't.
I'll probably forget, actually, is what'll happen.
That too.
Disclaimer here. Rape is not a funny thing. We're not making fun of it. I swear to God, if you say anything, I will come through this mic and destroy you. Alright, that's better. Okay, so... I think we've, like I say, I think we're done here. Tell us what you think down in the comments below, and until next time, be good to each other. Bye.